So along the lines of boycotts, the idea that you're going to turn this thing around, this attorney says the precedent is set nationally that if you sue as a gambler or a fan, you don't have a chance to win. They generally get thrown out because courts have held that the plaintiffs don't have standing to sue. In this particular framework, the promoter is the fighter. All of a sudden, Tyson gets magically healthy enough to fight, looking like a shell of himself compared to his training videos. So you bought into the farce. That's
it's true.
Look, you're fun. You're a sucker. You put your money up on this thing. Now, if you were betting Jake Paul, you're naturally happy, thinking, wow, this was the easiest money I ever made. But, I mean, the indicator should have been that the guy was being carried out of a plane on a stretcher for some kind of bizarre fact of an ulcer 2 fucking months ago. Instead, we're looking at these training videos and going, hey, it looks pretty sharp to me. I wouldn't want to get in there with him.
Yeah, he's punching that bag. I always love when they punch the bag and everyone gets excited.
You may as well have gone to some bar where they have that thing where they measure the might of
where you punch it one time. Ooh.
$5 in there and go, whoa, look at that, a 700. This guy's fucking tough. I wouldn't want to meet him.
Look, it's again. You watch. There's nothing wrong with. I'm not mocking people who watch it. I don't care. It was free on Netflix.
I mean, to watch it, it's entertainment. Some form.
I don't judge people for what they watch, but to then bet on it and then be mad that you bet on it.
You motherfuckers, you ripped me off.
What are you doing?
The time. Wake up with Defo, joined by Lubie. Welcome to the Defo Show.
Very pleasant. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another edition, a Wednesday edition of the Defo Show. I got a little bit of a late start. Technology being what it is, all of a sudden, something that was working perfectly doesn't work at all anymore. And bingo, here we are. Nice shirt, Lubie. You look absolutely fantastic today.
It's cold.
Got an early Hanukkah gift? What happened? I haven't seen you.
I got the shirt for it's just cold.
Yeah,
it's freaking cold outside. It's as you can tell. So I put on a long sleeve to get through it.
You look fantastic. So, where do we begin? I mean, it's pretty obvious. You were right, Lubie. You saw this from the start. How did people not see this? We're recommending yesterday you take a shot with the Hurricanes 8-1 to make the field, as Alabama leapfrogged the Hurricanes in the rankings. Hurricanes falling 6 spots. I don't know that anybody that was a Hurricane fan can cry about this. I understand. Look, it's especially ugly because it's Alabama again with more losses than an ACC team. You have the ACC commissioner. He's going crazy. Jim Phillips saying, I can't believe this shit.
Yeah, stupid ass.
You do have
last year, fucking moron. He had a real case last year, and he was quiet as fuck. Screw that guy.
Last year was far more legitimate, I believe. And it always comes up. I was socializing a little bit with a friend of mine yesterday who does a lot of handicapping, and he was talking about how Florida State got left out last year, and I'm thinking that was just a royal fucking. I don't know, and I understand that they're giving style points now, the committee, which once you get into that, it becomes so entirely subjective that you know that certain teams are going to be favored over others. And in this case, it was clearly, never mind Saber metrics, it was Saban metrics. But is this a carryover, the delirium of Nick Saban's run as a head coach of Alabama, that the committee is afraid to insult the SEC and Nick Saban, or is it just that the SEC controls everything that's going on in college football? And you could legitimize it in some ways by looking at quality wins, and yet when you look at Alabama's losses, I mean, they certainly were a little bit alarming, were they not? Yep. The Tennessee loss you can justify, Vandy and Oklahoma, and Oklahoma especially getting crushed like that in a game. The Hurricanes lose a heartbreaker. Granted, if you were going to go by style points, you would have to factor in the Cristobal factor and say, well, geez, their head coach is so lame that how can we possibly turn them loose in a playoff game? But still, I mean, you're talking about a 4-point loss on the road to a team that now is ranked inside the top 25. I believe Syracuse, did they slip in there at 23, or are they right there at the bottom?
22. They're 22.
Okay.
But only because they beat UM. Like, they weren't ranked.
They just got ranked.
For that.
They were hovering. They were in also receiving votes. Yeah.
It's why I thought they could win that game before that UM even lost to GT. That's the one game when UM was undefeated that I pointed to because I thought it would be the game we saw. But they, again, were not ranked. The UM fans are like, again, I'll let you finish your thing because you know No,
This is your stage because you were calling this all along.
this isn't my stage. It's not that. It's just, first of all, the falling 6 spots is bullshit because they shouldn't have been 6th. Okay, they should have been 12 or 13 before. I already had them at 12 or 13. I thought their ranking was unjustified. Once they started fucking around with Cal and VT and Louis, like that's what people forget. The Miami fans forget that part. Like the last 2 months, including FSU and Duke, every game was tight into the late third quarter. Like that's why Alabama was going to get the nod. Alabama, outside of those 2 weird games that they played versus Vandy and Oklahoma, was beat the shit out of teams. Like Miami didn't. Miami hasn't soundly beat anyone in 2 months. And yes, by the end of the Duke game and the end of the FSU game, the score was nice. But anyone that watched that game, it wasn't a domination. They had a lot of struggles, especially on defense. Their defense has been one of the worst defenses in college football for 2 months. Not all year, but the last 2 months when you got into the meat of the ACC season, their defense has been a goddamn sieve. And it's not like their offense, it's really fun and it's really good versus bad defenses. But when it's played any competent defense, which they really haven't played a lot of them, it wasn't like they're putting up 60 a game. Like this team had major question marks starting, as you know, at head coach. And it showed its head every goddamn week. Yes. And if it wasn't for the refs doing something it's never done in UM's history, helping UM like 4 times in a row, giving them wins, a lot of the cases, Miami probably has 4 losses. So UM fans can gripe and bitch and moan, but they're being naive and they're being ignorant because this team was not this juggernaut. They lost 2 out of their last 3 games to 2 teams that weren't ranked, okay? And it's that simple. Now, should Alabama be in? No. Alabama shouldn't be in. Is Alabama going to be in? Yes. Welcome.
Welcome to the real world, my friends. They should. It's kind of like when Notre Dame would be invited to one of the major bowls when the bowls didn't go by polls, but extended their invitations early on, and Notre Dame would already be ticketed for the Orange Bowl, even though they hadn't played a game yet. And the invitations were out in August, and you thought, well, how do they know if this team's going to be any good? They don't. But everybody wanted Notre Dame because they brought a lot of people and a lot of attention, and so the balls would be falling all over each other to get certain teams in there. Alabama happens to be that team for the College Football Playoff Committee. Now, in the past, look, could you argue that Alabama, with that 1 loss last year, what was undeserving of being in a 4-team postseason race? Maybe so, but when the decision was based on the fact that FSU had lost its starting quarterback, that seemed to be grossly unjust and defied everything that you would look at as a tenet by which to use sports as a guide in living your life, where you have to be able to compensate for things that go wrong, and you should have a chance to do it. And in that case, I don't know, how insulting is that the backup quarterback was deemed to be so lame compared to Jordan Travis that it excluded his team undefeated from being in a chance to at least figure out some way to win with the other guy, which they did. That was unfathomable that they would be bypassed. But in this case, look, if you're going overall, you would have to consider that the Hurricanes were on the ropes the entire season. That being said, but when you get shellacked by an unranked team in your final game,
yes, that is something.
And eclipse the number of losses that the team that's ranked behind you now has.
Yep.
And it's not like the University of Miami, is some team that just came out of nowhere and played nobody all year, which a lot of people asserted. But still, I mean, they're a major program, so I don't know that they deserve that kind of stuff. But how can you be upset? Just win one of those 2 games against Georgia Tech and Syracuse, and there is no argument at that point.
The South Carolina gripe is really bad because South Carolina fans all day were like, playoffs. I'm like, hey, you're not getting in. And they're like, what do you mean? And if you look what they've done, they started slow, but they've won 6 in a row. They've won, I think, 3 straight games, or 3 out of the last 4 or 5 against ranked opponents. They played really good football. And then they did lose Alabama, but they lost by 2 to Alabama. And Alabama has lost to Vandy, who's average. And then Oklahoma was bad most of the year. And they got drummed by
Tennessee.
Oklahoma beat the shit out of them. I mean, they scored like 3. They had tons of turnovers. They look bad. Oklahoma has been a mess all year. Brent Venables, most accounts, going to be fired, or people thought he was going to be fired at least. Like, you shouldn't lose that game. So South Carolina had a really good gripe. They lost head-to-head Alabama, And it's Alabama. I like after last year, I haven't paid attention to any of these rankings. And yes, my team sucks. But also after last year, I wasn't lying to people when I just said I don't give a fuck anymore. I watch the sport. I like the sport. But any naivete I once had, which I did last year, I was the one idiot that said, no, there's no way. Look, once Florida State showed that they were winning dominant, like they beat Florida in Florida by 9. And then they beat Louisville, who was a top 20 offense and defense, was ranked 15th at the time. They beat the living shit out of them. Like they had no quarterback, and Louisville couldn't get a first down. And they won by double digits. Like if you go and beat a team in a conference championship that's top 15 and great on offense and defense, and you beat them by double digits, you've shown your quarterback he matters only so much. You can find a way to win. If that team gets left out of the goddamn playoffs from a team that already lost, okay, like to me, I've learned my lesson.
An atrocity. Yes.
It's like, yeah, what are you shocked by? I told South Carolina fans all day, I'm like, you're going to get jumped by Alabama. If you really don't think that Alabama's brand isn't going to beat South Carolina, like you are naive. You're still naive, but you'll have your turn of being woken up. I had mine last year.
It's like Trump winning the election. You just look and go, all right, everybody said that wasn't going to happen, but sure enough, it did. By the way, Ron DeSantis leading the military, Secretary of Defense. Can you believe that? That's the new one.
Oh, yeah.
It's good you've turned off the news because that's probably better for your overall mental health as well. But
I've heard that.
I love the bitching about the Hunter Biden pardon by the Trumpster, who has nominated any number of guys, not only with criminals, but guys that he let out of jail himself.
Yes.
To important either cabinet positions or Kushner, the father of Jared Kushner.
Who's a criminal. Supposedly, they say the crimes he committed are as heinous as any crime you've ever seen. And he's
an ambassador now.
Yes. Get the fuck out. The faux pearl clutching is amazing. Like this guy bitching about going to a funeral. The cops were murdered because of fucking the Republicans, you asshole. Like, how are you going to bitch at Democrats for not going to I don't even know what funeral he's talking about, when literally the insurrection
that had to be the 3 cops that got mowed down, unfortunately, by a driver who either lost control of her car or, may have, she supposedly wasn't impaired. I guess this was deemed to be, at least at this point, as horrible as it is, just an unfortunate accident. That the 3 cops that were on a motorcycle side of the road, and some woman's trying to dodge somebody that's in front of her and loses control of her car. She mowed them all down. They had the funeral yesterday.
That's sad.
So, I mean, I don't know. And of course, the Trumpster's there. Saluting everybody, but he happens to live around the corner.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, where was he when all those cops were fucking killed by insurrectionists? He didn't go to any of those fucking funerals. Like,
did they issue pardons like he was handing out?
Exactly. He wants to give pardons to the insurrectionists
at a bar mitzvah. Yeah,
but Hunter Biden, who literally every person who's been in the Justice Department said, yeah, we would never charge him. What he did wasn't a thing, and it definitely wasn't a thing that should have gotten the attention it got. He should have been pardoned because he never should have been charged. Like, it's the most justifiable pardon ever. And because Biden did it, oh my God, it's the worst. Our pal was a massive criminal. He literally fucking let him off and then wants to put him in his cabinet. Like, what is wrong with people?
Incredible. Yeah. No, I mean, and so while that's going on, it's hard to get overwhelmingly upset about somebody getting fucked by the College Football Playoff Committee. Although at least this one's debatable.
Yeah,
and
it is.
You might be able to make a stronger case for Alabama than the University of Miami. That was not the case last year. That was just a straight, I mean, by all of the criteria that we've ever seen college football judged by, going undefeated. And then on top of that, an even greater accomplishment, winning the conference championship game while your starting quarterback was out.
They were on their 3rd string quarterback in that game.
Yeah.
And they won by double digits. Look, Miami has a case. They do. I'm not saying they don't. I'm just saying you had to know coming out of the ACC, which is the weakest of the Power 4, you either had to win your conference or you better have been a 1-loss team and play a tough-ass conference championship game. And then maybe they let 2 ACC teams in, which I find hard to believe. I find it hard to believe that they're going to let I've always said they're not getting 2 ACC teams in. Once you lost the second game and you're not even in the conference championship.
Are you sleeping with Heather Dinich or something? I mean, you were right on top of this, Lubie.
I hate her. She sucks now. But I'm just realistic. Like you can just see where they were going. They were going to put in 4 SEC, 4 Big 10, 1 ACC, 1 Big 12, one group of 5. And if Notre Dame was good, which they've been good all year, they lost to Northern Illinois and then they won like 9 in a row and they're beating the shit out of teams. That was going to be your playoffs. And that's it. Now, should South Carolina get over Alabama? Probably, but now they've done this bullshit with the head-to-head, where if you win head-to-head, even though we've saw for years, Miami got fucked winning head-to-head. They beat FSU head-to-head, and FSU got into a championship game. Like, head-to-head didn't FSU. Notre Dame beat FSU head-to-head, then loses to Boston College. FSU gets into the championship game. Like, head-to-head didn't always matter, but now suddenly, when Alabama's involved, last year with Texas, and then this year, head-to-head is the biggest thing. So that automatically was going to put Bama in over South Carolina. I didn't even watch the thing. I just looked at Twitter watching people melt down, and I'm like, duh.
Yeah, I happened to see somebody complaining on Facebook saying, "Oh, can you believe this? The Hurricanes got fucked." Like, is that any surprise? I don't know. And I'm not sure. It wasn't the royal screw job that we saw last year with Florida State.
Win those games. That's it.
As we said, completely unjustifiable by the committee. And they basically exposed themselves as being the Fugazi organization.
Yep.
It was right up there with the World Boxing Council. And I'll never forget this. It was many, many years ago. And a friend of mine's ranked number 1 in the world. There were only 2 boxing organizations at the time, so it was very difficult to get in a position where you would get a mandatory title shot. The fighter that was number 2 was a guy named Alfonso Zamora, who didn't fight for 2 years. And then just as the mandatory event was coming up against the great Carlos Zarate and my buddy Albert Davila, gets dropped to number 2. Zamora becomes the number 1 fighter. Hadn't fought in 2 years. Somehow my guy's winning bout after bout. He's at the Olympic every other week, knocking people out. Somehow he slipped to number 2 in the ratings when the decision was made, or when it became time to declare a mandatory title shot. And guess what? Some guy from Mexico ends up. He actually ended up winning it, by the way, Zamora, which was exceptional because even that looked to be of a fugazi nature. But when the college football committee is coming off as less credible than the World Boxing Council, then you have to concern yourself with the idea that maybe what you're watching is total bullshit the entire time. A lot of speculation, though. I mean, can you imagine? Is that half of the entertainment quotient in college football? Is all of the wrangling and expectations and the speculation about who's actually going to finally get a chance to compete for them? And with 12 teams now, it got even worse. It's amazing.
Yes. I mean, look, Ken always said this.
If it was the top 4 teams this year, how would that have worked out, in your opinion?
I don't know, because Georgia's finding their way in, and it's not like Georgia's had this banner year. Like, there's always going to be a question. That's why we bitched about the BCS, but the top 2 teams are the only thing that makes sense. Texas has struggled. I think they'll have 1 loss, right? Doesn't Texas only have 1 loss?
Texas has 1 loss, yes.
That's it. Texas has 1 loss. Oregon is undefeated. So it's so funny. As much as the BCS was annoying, every year it seems like the top 2, and now last year they went to work. You needed to get to 4, but there's always that other team. And when you get to 12, look, we see with 64, and we know the team that's 65 isn't going to win it all, but a lot of times 65 is better than 58. So like every time they're going to make it 14 and then 60. They're going to keep doing it because there's always someone bitching, and we do this. Look, no one who watched that thing, but more people are talking about it.
Yes.
CFP ranking thing. I don't even watch the stupid ass specials, but we all love talking about it, and it gives them eyeballs, and people are going to bitch and moan. And this Saturday, look, it still isn't said. They have the conference championship games, and maybe Clemson, there's a tight game. I don't know what they're going to do with the rankings.
There appears to be no scenario.
Supposedly it's locked in, is what they're saying. Yeah, they're saying it's locked in, supposedly. I don't know. We'll see. I never know. I don't trust these people at all. I think it's funny that the ACC last year had an undefeated conference champion and didn't go to bat for them at all. This year, Phillips was doing interviews. Cristobal was on ESPN like 5 times yesterday. Like,
what could he possibly have to say about that?
I just think it's weird. Like, you had a team that had no question, and you didn't go to bat for them at all. They lost twice in the last 3 weeks.
Yes.
There's teams that look, Georgia Tech finished strong. They almost beat Georgia. They should have beat Georgia in regulation. Syracuse ended up being a really good team with a really good offense and a really good quarterback, but they weren't ranked teams. You lose 2 out of 3 games, you can't assume you're in. Like, but that's the team you're going to bat for. The ACC doesn't get it. Like, that's why FSU wants out. That's why if you're Miami, you should be smart and get the fuck out. It's not a legit. It's always you're getting 1 team to 4. Like, And we have 17 teams. The ACC has the most bowl teams. The ACC is tied with SEC for 13 bowl teams. Isn't that what shows a good conference? Teams that win 6 or more games, like depth. Isn't that what shows a good? So ACC actually isn't this bad conference, but it's considered the worst Power 4. Okay, so fuck that conference? Like, it's not doing shit for you. Like, Miami should be in the playoff, but anyone who really thought they were going to go into the playoff yesterday is naive and hasn't been paying attention the last decade.
It certainly wasn't the gut punch that you took last year with Florida State. And look, as you judge their overall body of work, if you want to take that into consideration, at the key moments, they either looked really, really shaky or they lost. So, but that's going to spark a lot of debate. I don't know that Miami was going to win any championships. They were 300 to 1 to win the whole thing.
They weren't winning,
and 8 to 1 to get into the postseason. That looked like a reasonable proposition because you were just rolling the dice that maybe this time, especially with all the flack that happened last year. Because the key there was that Alabama was that team.
Yep.
That is knocking them out, and same thing happened a year ago, and I don't know that you would expect any different. So that took care of that piece of business, and the Hurricanes, after a 10-2 season, will find themselves what? Are they going to the Emerald Bowl again?
They should be in a good bowl, but I don't know how the bowls work. I'm glad this gentleman's going to be joining us shortly. Maybe he has a fucking clue. I have no idea. Like, if you're not in the playoffs, can you still be in a good bowl? Like, are there any good bowls left?
Yeah. All right. Well, let's go to the expert on that. Is he ready? Is he with us here? The great Tony Segreto.
I was just going to type that to you.
Okay, very nice. There he is. The Bowl Committee Judgment Center.
Don't include me in this.
Well, how aware are you of these kind of things? I mean, you're on various boards of directors, and of course, tied into the Hurricane program forever. Were you privy to any of this speculation? I mean, what were people saying there? Did they feel that there was some certainty that they would get into the postseason, even though Alabama was widely figured to leapfrog them in spite of their loss to Oklahoma? What was the feeling?
As far as Miami goes,
yeah.
I think that early on there was speculation that we could be good, but then as the season wore on, when they were 7-0 and in the top 10, there was some reason to believe that they would be really good and that they could get into a bowl game. Now, they lost to Syracuse and Georgia Tech.
Yes.
And that puts it behind the 8 ball again. But, this is, people got to take a step back and realize where we were a year ago. And Cristobal has turned this thing around. He has, he's got his flaws, but come on, folks. You got to just grin and bear it because that's the way it is. That's the way it is.
Well, I guess the question would be, what happens after this? Do you believe they got screwed in this particular incident, where they're not going to be part of the 12-team playoff in spite of being 10-2? And do you feel that there was overwhelming partisanship on the part of Alabama, even though Nick Saban's no longer there, to fit them into the equation somehow?
I don't think there's any sabotage going on here, but I do believe that Alabama takes precedent because of who they played. And Miami, will they get screwed? Yes, they get screwed.
So, I mean, that was a contention forever. Remember we used to do all these talk shows, Tony, back in the heyday, about how there was this international bias against the Hurricanes. And
no, there was
there was that stupid slogan they had, it's some hurricane thing you wouldn't understand, or a Miami thing, which I never thought was particularly
thing you wouldn't understand.
You wouldn't understand. I still have a T-shirt.
You have that?
Huh?
Do you have a Catholics versus Convicts T-shirt by any chance?
I don't.
You should have worn that today. I mean, that would have been.
And Notre Dame being.
I don't know if I still have. I have to check for you, but enough said.
Yeah. All right.
That's,
All right. So you know the concern is it obviously
they
people
didn't
are
get
hollering at
screwed.
the wind.
They
Don't
did not get screwed, but there is bias when it comes to Alabama.
Oh,
Yeah.
no doubt.
Bingo.
We know
That's
that.
it.
Yeah.
Still carryover effect from as we call them,
Oh,
Saban metrics.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
If they could have
that
had 4 losses, they probably still would have been in there. So
no, I don't think so. But
Look, if Miami had the 1 loss and they had 3, yes, Miami would have gotten in.
Miami
Once
would
they
have
had
gotten
that second loss,
the
after
second loss and how it happened.
second loss, and then the fucking field goal thing, and
yeah.
their defense just literally can't stop anyone at this point. You gave again. That's my problem with FSU. FSU did everything they could to not give the ESPN SEC excuses. Right? They're going to try and do everything they can to get the SEC team in.
Yes.
It's your job. Win every game. That's what we said. Win every game. That's what Norvell told his players. Win every game, and there's nothing they can do. And then they still fucked us. It's like, okay, we won every game and they fucked us. You don't think they're gonna fuck you with 2 losses?
Yeah.
Like, come on. Like, and it's Alabama. Get out of
You
here.
know, we want to put the playoff committee in this bubble and say that they're not affected by it all.
Oh, of
But
course.
they're human beings, and they have to be. And you know, if it comes down to an Alabama or a I don't know, pick a team, Georgia. You know, they may go with Alabama, and if it's SMU and Alabama gets it.
I would say that Alabama's 3rd loss was far more startling than Miami's loss to Syracuse on the road. On top of that, and by a handful of points in a game where, unfortunately for them, they led 21-0 and were able to protect the lead. But as Lubie said, Syracuse not being a great team, but they were a team that at least had some elements, and now ranked 22, as Lubie was saying, but. They were throwing for a lot of yards. They had an explosive offense and passing game, and so if you were going to say, "Hey, what team performed better in the final week of the season?" you would have to say that the Syracuse loss by Miami was far more, indicative of a team that was playoff worthy than what Alabama did, laying an egg against Oklahoma. So anyway, that's been decided. What happens, Tony, with bowl games now? I mean, what's left? Where are these games being contested?
Yeah, there's still good
Playoff
bowl
games.
games that are not in the
Big
playoffs.
bowl games available. In other words, I would imagine. Are you still with the Orange Bowl committee? Because
Yes, I am.
would they welcome having Miami, or do they run from having the Hurricanes in the Orange Bowl?
No, they welcome having Miami.
Okay.
They welcome having Miami, but you know, it all boils down to what the money says, where the money is. If it's between the Orange Bowl and, let's say, the Gator Bowl, they're going to take the Orange Bowl.
Well, would the Orange Bowl take them though?
Oh yeah.
And are they capable of picking? I mean, how is that decided, or are the games already preordained? That
The games are preordained in that they have to go to. You get the highest ranked team available.
okay,
So,
I mean, in terms of the playoffs, I haven't really followed that, but
well, the playoffs are a different ball game.
okay. So, will the national championship? I mean, that was a thing. What was it last year that the Orange Bowl had the national championship game, and they knew they were going to have that no matter what? With the
That's how it
14
used to be.
playoffs, I mean, how's that work this year?
Yes,
No.
that's how it used to be. I don't.
We're gonna need a bowl expert there. We need Ken or something. I don't know. We'll see what happens with that. I mean, you would think the Hurricane fans at least would be pacified by the idea that maybe they go to a major bowl game, but I don't even.
Well, they
know.
are going to go. They should go to a major bowl game. They should go, and you got plenty of them. You got the Cotton Bowl still is a major bowl game, and this 12 team playoff is going to be a disaster.
Oh, you think?
Oh my God!
Why so?
Because there's going to be a 13th or 14th team that should be in there.
Oh,
Yes.
well, see, I don't get too upset about that.
I'm curious to see,
Yeah.
Notre Dame, for example, host now. they're 99% chance.
I think Notre Dame is worth a shot to win the national championship. I may be
really good
getting
football.
off base on that, but
Them and SMU,
blowing people out.
Them and SMU are actually playing the best ball of anyone in the country, and no one's talking about either of them. And it is funny to say that SMU, I expected to say that about Notre Dame, that they're playing good football and no one's talking about them. That's mind-boggling. Like when growing up in the 90s, when we hated both not only UM but FS, everyone in my world that wasn't a Notre Dame fan, it was like the Cowboys. You either love the Notre Dame, or you hated Notre Dame. But you knew Notre Dame. To have Notre Dame play this well, they've won like 8 or 9 in a row. And everyone's like, Northern Illinois. It's like, it was like 2 months ago. Like, gives a shit.
Fucked up, as they say. All right, we're going to take a brief timeout. We'll come back with Tony Segreto, a little old school with Tony Segreto coming up. Brought to you by Texas Roadhouse Restaurants. A great place and great holiday gift ideas. There is news with Ed Garcia's Michigan Wolverines.
Yeah, what the hell?
They just fired their offensive coordinator, which should come.
I didn't even see that. Good for you.
No big surprise, as they were ranked 128th. With total offense this year. OC gone. On the cut, so we'll see if they can come up with somebody. They did come up with a quarterback at $12 million for his freshman year, which will be kind of interesting. So
these kids are making, these guys want to go back to college and play.
Yeah, I mean, if I was a pro and I was making league minimum, I think, do I have any eligibility left? It would be great. Go back to school. Nothing like returning to school. It's not out forever. All right, we're coming back with more in a moment. Now that.
The time.
It's 8:39.
Hey, folks, Tony Segreto here. Let me ask you a question. What do you look for when you go out to eat? Good food, obviously. Friendly atmosphere, not too loud, but good energy, reasonable prices, and a place where you feel comfortable. All those ingredients, no pun meant there, are hard to find unless you're talking about the Texas Roadhouse. You see, they encompass all of those attributes. Really, really good food, amazing atmosphere, good for a family, good for a date, or just a night out for yourself, and prices that will make you extremely happy. Their ribs, unmatched. Steaks, hand-cut every day. Everything, and I mean everything, is made on site, including their incredible bread. It's the one day, folks, that you can forget about low-carb diets. Trust me when I tell you, Texas Roadhouse, your restaurant, your destination when you say, where should we go and eat tonight?
From the newly renovated sports bar to the beautiful bayside views captured at the Tiki Bar, Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill has it all. Located at mile marker 104, the Big Chill also offers waterfront dining while experiencing breathtaking sunset views of the Florida Keys. It's simply the hottest spot in the Keys to cool off. That's Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill at mile marker 104 in Key Largo. For more information, call today at 305-453-9.
What we gonna do right here is go back, way back into time.
We are now kicking it old school with the one and only Tony Segreto. Brought to you by Texas Roadhouse.
Tell me, doctor, where are we going this time?
All right, welcome back to the show. We got Tony Segreto here. We're going old school. How's the weather up there in Vermont?
I want to say something.
Yes.
I'm scheduled to go to the Sun Belt Championship game this weekend.
Okay, where's that?
Who's in that?
Lafayette, Louisiana.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
You have representatives
Roadhouse there, I hope.
And I don't know if I can get out.
It's like that? Yeah, it's going like that.
We're expecting a snowstorm tonight, tomorrow, and into Friday, with 4 to 8 inches of snow and blowing snow. And if I got to alert them.
Leave today.
Geez, really?
Yeah. Will they put you up for a few extra days in whatever hotel they have you stay? So, is there a swanky hotel in Lafayette, Louisiana? I mean, where do they?
What do you think?
I think mostly a dump. I mean, it would be like the Ritz.
It's not a dump. Don't get all Louisianans texting.
I'm a big fan. Louisiana happens to be one of my favorite states.
Yep.
Of course, with New Orleans there and many other places that are kind of entertaining to visit. But nonetheless, so are you going to get out there today, Tony? What are you thinking?
No, I got to call them and see what's up, and then we go from there.
Now this is to decide if somebody and you're looking over teams scouting possibilities for the Orange Bowl.
You know what? This is all goodwill. this is a goodwill trip, to shake hands and say hello and see how you're doing. And
I love this job that you have. Lubie, would they have to pay you to do this job that Tony's doing for the Orange Bowl Committee? No, you would be glad.
No, it's really cool. I think it's amazing.
An ambassador for the city of Miami. So I mean, how far away from making a decision? Because that was my question before. What was is there some kind of automatic assignment to the Orange Bowl this year? Usually, what they got an ACC team, the second best ACC team, or whatever.
Second best ACC team and an at-large team.
Okay.
So they'll they'll get.
Is it possible one of those teams in the what was that bowl? The that you're heading for in Lafayette?
No.
The Blue Bonnet Bowl. What is it?
No.
The Sun Belt Championship.
Sun Belt
Championships.
Oh, it's not a bowl again. That's right. Yes. Sun Belt Championship. Okay. Well, we wish you all the best with that, Tony. I hope you have a shovel there at the household. Let's bring in Ed Garcia from Texas Roadhouse Restaurants. And I get into this discussion a little bit because he is probably. I mean, do you know a bigger college football fan than this guy? Welcome.
What do you have in your background there?
Good morning. Oh, that might be the team that's 0-4 versus Michigan right now.
I mean, how much were you reveling in that? You seemed you weren't even cautiously optimistic about that game, as I recall last week. You didn't rule out the possibility of a win, but I would say you were less than emphatic about the idea that was going to happen.
You may have cost Ryan Day his job.
That would be fitting. He came and Ohio State may put an asterisk on, the first 2 years. They said, hey, or even 3 years, we stole signs, which is complete crap. We've talked about that plenty of times on the show, but he talks about his finesse and his program and the $20 million he pumped into the program this last year. And Michigan was out number one offensive player, number one defensive player. And at the end of the day, the one thing he didn't count on was heart. And Michigan brought some heart. And, for the last, I think, 18 years, the one thing that won that game was rushing yards. And guess what? Michigan came out on top. I also feel there was some coaching mistakes, on both sides. But, Ryan Day, on that last drive. Well, not the last drive, second to last drive. He's coming down the field. He's got the two top wide receivers, and he's 3rd and 10 and decides to run the ball. I mean, he might as well, just gave it to us in a Christmas gift at that point. So that was the kill shot, I think, for Ohio State. They learned a lot, and it's going to be pretty tough for the next few years through the program. Why hasn't he lost his job yet? I'm sure it's coming up. Is they need to get him, through this, this Big 12 championship year.
Yeah, they're going to be in the playoffs. So,
and if he doesn't do well in the playoffs, I definitely feel he might be an offensive coordinator somewhere.
We thought you'd be singing the Hallelujah,
Absolutely. 100%. For the first time in over probably 20 years, I put money on Michigan. And
wow.
I felt there was an outside chance. I actually took the Hard Rock bet of 14. I only gave 14 points, and it came in huge. Obviously, it paid very, very, very well. And and again, the reason I stopped betting on Michigan is that every time I did bet Michigan, I would lose. So
that's usually a discouraging factor.
Yes.
Yeah. So I was going to bet on Ohio State. I was like, no, I just have this really crazy feeling that they're going to keep it close. It was going to be one of two things. We were either going to, be within 3 or just get blown out. And after I saw that, those first couple drives, I felt really good about my bet.
Money line, Ed Garcia. That would have been the move. That had to be substantial there.
This is a great week for Michigan. And Detroit. I don't even know what happened. Both games, it took me about 30 seconds of sitting there. At the end of the Lions game, my wife was like, "Why are you not going crazy?" I was like, I don't know. There's a timeout left. I'm waiting for a penalty flag. I don't know what was going on. That was the craziest thing ever. And then Michigan was the same thing. I was like, wait, I know they're doing backflips and everything. It was very surreal. But
yes.
Hey, I'll take it. just what a great week.
What a great weekend for you. That's for sure. Between the Lions, I tell you what, my wife is so into it right now because the Lions are doing well, and her beloved Irish are doing well, and they're. I don't know if I can get her down from her high.
Yeah. Notre Dame looks really good. And, it's really exciting. I mean, college football was huge, both, pro football and college football. I mean, the amount of interceptions thrown this past weekend was also really insane, but it made for a great football weekend.
Oh, it was tremendous all the way around. I happened to be on the Bears bandwagon in that Thanksgiving Day game, so that was brutal. Eberflus, who was already on the ropes. I mean, what was the more lame coaching decision? Eberflus, I guess, forsaking a timeout. Because you always hear people saying when they're announcing games like that, well, the one thing they can't afford to do is get sacked here. And yet, after the quarterback gets sacked, you'd figure immediately that there was the guy standing right by the official. He would have called a timeout and
100%
and saved the 32 seconds on the clock. And instead, he was sort of very casually defending the decision. Oh, well, we ran the play that we wanted to run.
How can you defend that position?
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, the same way Mario could defended
field goal
for the field goal. And where, and I believe this. I don't know how you guys feel about it, but you see this situation a lot where a team essentially needs to score twice, and so they're down at the 3-yard line, and they go ahead and kick the field goal. And then try an onside kick and try and get the touchdown afterward. And we saw this with Matt LaFleur actually with Aaron Rodgers. That seemed to create an even bigger divide than there already was when he wouldn't give Rodgers one shot there in a playoff game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers several years ago. But wouldn't you figure that you're that close to the goal line, that would be your best chance to get a touchdown if you needed one? So. Why would you go for a field goal?
Ward's done that all year. Like that's what saved their ass in like 5 games. Was Ward pulling a play out of his rear at the end of a game?
And the consequences, if you miss, are even less severe than if you have to kick the ball off, still trailing by 4. And now you did put yourself possibly in a position to actually win the game in regulation, but you still were going to need a touchdown for that to happen. So why wouldn't you want to just leave them at the 10-yard line? If you were going to count on their inability to run out the clock with 4 minutes to go. So which one ranked as the dumber decision? I mean, the obvious one, I guess, would be
the kneel is the dumbest fucking thing. Oh, the timeout with Eberflus was pretty rough.
Yeah.
The field goal by Mario, I don't know. I mean, Tony, how do you justify that?
You don't.
Oh, good. Well, there's no Tony. Your affiliation with Miami, you won't be getting those invites. Whatever ball game they go to. What do you think, Ed?
I definitely would go with the timeout. I mean, I think he was lost. He had no idea how close the game was.
He was lost. That's a good point, Ed, because I think that's true. I think the coach got lost.
He was in over his head. I mean, you see it on his face. He was bewildered, and it's unfortunate, but that comes with coaching. When it's those stressful situations, you have to know, plan A, B, and C. This happens. This is what we do. This happens. This is what we need to do. And it was, granted a team effort. He's got people up in the box supporting him as well. But, there was a lot of blown things, and hey, it cost him his job. So, but anyway, that was my number one call. I think
I would assume you do that at Texas Roadhouse too.
Can you imagine if Ed Garcia was this weak in decision making? There would be a rebellion at Texas Roadhouse.
100%.
But at least there, the staff would know what to do to compensate for.
Do you have
oversight? Yeah.
Do you have fail safe in action?
Absolutely. I mean, it's a lot like football. You hear me talk a lot of references of blocking and tackle, and the number one thing that comes with leadership is discipline. That discipline builds great habits, and the team knows what to expect. When there's a line at the door. You will see, the servers will take a second, they'll come up and they'll help that host stand. It's kind of like, hey, the ball's moving right, the staff's going to go ahead and move right. And, that's what creates that awesome atmosphere, that teamwork, that love, that feeling. When you walk into Texas Roadhouse, it's not 120 employees working for themselves. It's 120 people working as a team, which is, what got Michigan that W this past weekend is that they worked together as a team. No one was out there take the single trophy, and and everybody knows, at Texas Roadhouse, the hand cut steaks, the people that rally around the meat cutter that is in a refrigerator at 38 degrees cutting meat 28 degrees cutting meat all day.
Jeez.
He's back there. They know, hey, they knock on the door. Do you need some more coffee? Do you need this? Because of his steaks, that's what makes those guests out there in the dining room super happy. Being hand cut, perfect every single time is really, really awesome. So that's what sets Texas Roadhouse apart. Is continue to set us apart. That's our playbook. You know what? Connor Stallions, go ahead, give it to everybody else. No one can copy it. So
And we're in gift card season, right?
Oh.
Christmas 3 weeks away. Like no better time to go and get your gift cards to get other people to the Texas Roadhouse experience.
Black Friday we had the Daytona location broke $30,000 by noon, by 12 noon. So it is such an awesome gift, great stocking stuffer. I actually do have your gift cards just came in. I have a gift card with your pictures on it.
Nice.
So I don't know if that hurts or helps the value on the gift card. But maybe we can get in a live show, at one of the Texas Road.
We can make it happen. 100%.
Maybe we can just bring in a screen and put his head on there, put like a little bobblehead of Tony in front.
Yeah.
We'll figure it
I
out.
think he's going to be snowed in for the rest of the winter there in Vermont. So maybe he can frequent that location. And certainly the gift card with our picture on it would be preferable to any credit card that
That'd be great.
That'd
be great.
Yeah. Tony, of course, has financial credibility that we don't share, which makes him a much more preferred customer, I would think. No, that'd be great. And I'll say this, Ed Garcia, I met a friend yesterday for a drink. We ended up having a couple of appetizers, and it wasn't like it was overwhelmingly expensive, this particular restaurant, but we got a check there. I made the phony reach for the check as if I was intending to pay for both of us. And, naturally, the guy that I was with said, yeah, go ahead. And we had two relatively small, tasty appetizers and a couple of happy hour drinks. And the bill was over $100. And I was
Come on.
It wasn't like it was unreasonable, for the type of place it was. But at the same time, I was thinking I could have fed 5 people to Texas.
Exactly.
And you stopped
And good food.
at the drive-thru on the way home.
And what?
And you stopped at the drive-thru on the way home.
That's when you knew you had a bad meal or a bad service or a bad.
Well, it wasn't bad. I have no complaint about what they did, but I'm just thinking, my God, when people go out, that was a fairly representative price for what we had at a lot of these type of places. But wow, do you get a bargain at Texas Roadhouse? That $100 gift card goes a long, long way. By comparison, easily, a couple of people could have sat down at steak dinners and had several more drinks and still been under a stick, which is nice. So
you could have 4 people go on that.
Yes, well, you can.
It's phenomenal. And then the picture of the steak, I don't know who took that. Did we take that, Lubie? That we have in the Texas Roadhouse? We run. Man, that looks good, Ed Garcia.
It's ridiculous.
As do you. All right, who are you thinking is going to take the national championship, Ed? We may as well try and decide that.
I'm leaning on the Ducks. So I think
you think Oregon goes all the way.
I feel the Ducks are looking pretty good. I think Texas is going to, give it, a little bit. And I know I think Penn State's they're in over their head, but that they're gonna lose it in the Big Ten championship. They didn't necessarily deserve to be there, but we took Ohio State's chance out. So it just shows you, money doesn't buy everything. But I'm going for the Ducks as of today.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, we do have to thank you, though, for upsetting Ohio State. There is nothing more delightful than seeing Ohio State lose. They pan to a shot of Greg Krenzel, and you remember that hideous Terry Porter call in the Fiesta Bowl many years ago with the Hurricanes. And I've hated Ohio State ever since Woody Hayes punched that player along the sidelines. I was never a big fan, so I couldn't have been any more pleased for you, Ed Garcia. We were related.
I couldn't have been happier for you either, Ed.
No,
Ryan.
And it did seem unfathomable at one point in time. We talked to many people about games, and I remember where we've been referencing this because he got fired at FAU, but Tom Herman before the season seemed resigned to the idea he was going to have a lousy year, and many people were resigned to the notion that Ohio State would prevail in that game. But to see Michigan come out on top was certainly not only a surprise, but a very pleasant one for the holidays.
Absolutely.
All right. We wish you all the best, Ed. We'll be talking again, but load up on those gift cards for Christmas and the holidays, Hanukkah, whatever. And people will be thrilled to experience the Texas Roadhouse dining. I mean, just the quality of the food and the way you guys do everything and keeping the prices down like you do is certainly. I mean, it's defying what's going on in America and around the world.
Yes.
So.
How many restaurants do you have now, Ed?
Well, I have 12 from Daytona all the way down south, but we are breaking 750, getting close to 800 across the United States.
Oh my God.
Getting close to 50 international.
50 international.
That's amazing.
Very nice. All right. Well, we'll have to arrange that show. And
Hey, I'll text you and we'll figure something out this month.
Yep, let's do it.
And
Thanks.
we wish you all the best. Thanks so much for joining us. Congratulations on the Michigan win. Ed Garcia, ladies and gentlemen.
Wow.
It's funny.
That was really something. I mean,
I didn't see that happening. I thought there was no way they were being.
No chance, right? They have no quarterback. Their offense, as we said, ranked 128th in the country. OC gets fired after a win over Ohio State, your arch rival. There are sometimes, Tony, and you've seen this, that teams just can't get out. They can't shake the trends and the tendencies that they have. And with Ryan Day, wow, I don't know that his contract went in the shredder after that, but because they are in the postseason in the playoff hunt, and by and large had a pretty good year. But that loss was startling. I mean, how many times can you lose to your arch rival and keep the position?
That has to be that has to be the biggest rivalry in college football.
It's up there. I know that much.
Yeah.
Nationally, I like down here we have ours, so I'm biased. But nationally, that's the one they always go to: Ohio State, Michigan.
And if you win one game,
Yeah,
when
Michigan's
you have
happy.
That was the one.
in
Yeah.
the Michigan game.
Yeah, Michigan's happy. I mean, their season was a disaster, and they're very happy after that win.
I've referenced this many times. A good friend of mine was a diehard Jet fan. This is years ago when the Jets weren't an impossibility to see as doing any good. And he said he didn't care if the Jets went 2-14 in any season as long as those 2 wins were over the Dolphins. We have that coming up. Well, what's your thought on that one, Tony? What was your feeling about the Dolphins laying an egg against the Green Bay Packers on Thanksgiving? No comment. Wow.
No comment.
Why would you ever see Tony Segreto with no comment on a Dolphin game?
I can't figure it out.
All right, and they have the Jets this week. Will that get your attention, or people are sending it in on the Dolphins right now? 6.5-point favorites.
How do I put this?
I'm gonna make them win that game easy.
They can't lose to the Jets.
No, I think they'll win that game easy. I think they'll win the next 5 games. That's what's going to be annoying. Is I think they're going to win the next fucking 5 games and not make the playoffs, and it's going to be really fucking frustrating.
That's the thing, because
it's out of their hands now. It's really annoying. Like it's not in their control at all, which sucks.
Yeah,
they're down 2.5
they
games.
Can't get it right. They lose the first 4, they win the next 5.
Yeah,
they lose the next 3. They just can't get it right. You know,
that was very disappointing, though. What they did.
I like Mike McDaniel a lot. You
do? Okay.
But
not sure about him yet.
Boy, there's
like
something there.
From a personal standpoint,
there's something there that's just missing.
Bingo.
Toughness. I mean, this has been the big subject in that topic in the NFL.
Really true.
The team soft. That's been coming up a lot with losing teams. And that was thrown very much into the spotlight after the Dolphins game against Green Bay, where once again,
how can you lose that game?
Well, and the funny thing is, as bad as Tua was in the first half, Tua actually played really strong in the second half. Like, if you look at his numbers, they're really good against a good defense on the road in very cold conditions. It was their defense wasn't tackling. It wasn't even like they were bad at tackling. They were literally just
weren't tackling. They were going ole, ole, ole.
Like NFL players were like, that is what you do when you just are soft and don't want to tackle. For the first time, it was not on Tua, and it almost wasn't even on McDaniel as much as it was on Chris Greer. And that defense was just—they were literally missing dudes.
Whether you got the impression that they just wanted to get out of there.
Yes, they just wanted to get the hell out of there.
Such ugliness. All right, you were gonna stay silent on that, Tony, but Lubie brought it out of you. Ugliness. All right,
I love it when Lubie gets passionate.
Oh, Lubie's always passionate.
Hey, you got dressed up today.
Yes.
fucking
Don't
freezing
you love
here.
the shirt? I mean, it
I
looks
love the shirt.
It's cold
Lubie.
here. I mean, it's not cold. I'm talking to you. You literally might not get in a plane because
Let me tell
of
you
the weather,
what.
but it was like
if you walked
40s.
outside right now, Tony, would your face freeze over? I mean, is it that cold?
It's 14 degrees.
Oh,
You-
wow.
Hell out of here.
We found it refreshing that it was like 65.
we're under a winter storm warning.
Oh my god.
Oh, Jesus. Well, the whole country's getting socked in by different shit, especially upstate New York. It's been brutal there. So, and you know, that sort of add to the enchantment that we have with the Buffalo Bills playing in those. As soon as I saw the conditions there, a couple of days before the Bills, I sent it in on the Buffalo Bills in that game against the 49ers. I knew the 49ers had no shot. You know. All right, Tony, you're a great American. We love you, and good luck getting out of there. Let us know what happens. Keep us posted. All right.
Love you guys. Thank you.
Okay. All right. See you later, Tony
All right,
Segreto,
thanks,
ladies and gentlemen.
See you next
All
week.
right, that'll do it for us. Also,
Yes,
Mike,
sir.
you'll be will you be wearing that shirt later on the Mike
Yes,
Van Lunch Podcast?
we're going to Casa D'Angelo, which is a nicer place too. So that
Outdoor table or something?
has, I don't know. It's just fucking cold, and Casa D'Angelo's nice. So I figured, okay, I could pull out a
Oh, you look classy. It's good.
long sleeve today.
Okay.
1:30 for the Casa D'Angelo
1:30,
Lauderdale today.
all right.
1:30 today. 1:30 today.
Okay, that makes life pretty easy. All right,
sure.
very good, sir. We will see you there. And
Bill
thanks so much
Kamal.
for tuning in, everybody.
Did you see? I know we have to go.
What's that?
And he just jumped to the point of Bill Kamal.
Bill Kamal,
Secretary of
always good to
Climate.
get a Kamal reference. Where is Andy, by the way? Last time I saw, he had a clip. He was in a hospital bed somewhere, and sounding like they were about to read him his last rites. Is he all right? He's been active here on
Oh,
the.
he chimes with us. I'm hoping that's a good sign. I don't know.
We need a location. All right. All right. We'll see you guys later on. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll catch you again tomorrow. Gurgles Trivia Challenge possibilities also loom over the program, which is great.
Talk with Gurgs.
And, we'll have some fun as we close out the week here with Thursday and Friday's developments. See you next time as we leave you know that.
The time.
Nice, easy, breezy week so far.
There you go.
Mike Lubie, Lucas.
There's a lot going on in the sports world. A lot of controversy.
Oh, and a good session I had yesterday with Eric Reed. Eric Reed is great.
Yeah, he's great. He's fun.
Conversations with Eric Reed. I'm doing an hour interview show on a site called Bleacher Brothers. It's Bleacher Brothers Network, and they have a lot of stuff on there. It's actually kind of an all-encompassing sports site. They have all kinds of things on there. And Conversations airs Tuesday live at 4:00. And what was great was, and my concern is always, does the guy realize he's going to be on for an hour?
An hour, yeah. You have to make sure they know.
And then is his equipment capable of matching the requirements of the technology so that we could do a video interview for an hour with we've had some very interesting people on. That's the goal. Yeah. So I knew Eric Reed. I mean, look, the guy's been with the Heat since day one.
Yep.
Is there anybody better to go to on that? We have great analysts on that with Scoop Skolnick, Ira Winderman, but nobody has seen more than Eric Reed, and also a great talker. First question, I'm looking at the clock. I'm like, oh, good. We're already 20 minutes into this thing, and I haven't gotten to question two.
Yeah, he can talk.
I love that.
He's a great guy.
No, and that's a lot of fun. You can find it, I guess, on YouTube and also the Bleacher Brothers network. Just log on there. I think you guys are the sports fans will find that a very useful site. So, but a very enjoyable conversation with Eric Reed yesterday. All right, we have to get out of here. Thanks so much for being with us. We'll see you next time as we leave you know that.
The time.
I love those kind of interviews, Libby. You know that where you say hello to Don King, and then a half hour later he says, "It is 9:06."
Let's go to eat a damn snack.
Look what they done to my soul.